Hello and welcome to another episode of Startup Hustle Middle East. Today we are here with Shin. He is one of the partners at Shorooq Investments. Now, Shorooq Investments is a pretty big player over here in the Middle East. They invest in tech startups, mostly invest in seed round and Series A round. So we have him here today to tell us a little bit about what investors are looking at when they decide to invest into seed and Series A companies, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Cool. So he's also one of the Forbes 30 under 30.
Yes.
Pretty cool title, I must say. And he's actually one of the founding partners of Shorooq Investments.
Yes.
So let's talk quickly about your background and what led you to become a VC.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. Really excited to be here and really my sincere pleasure to share my thoughts. So Shin, born and grew up in South Korea. Went to high school in Canada and I went to the Wharton School in the US, concentrating in finance, which led me to start my, let's say, traditional finance route of an investment banker in Wall Street. And I quickly moved to a private equity firm in San Francisco. So US was great, Silicon Valley, Wall Street, all of those, let's say, fancy titles were great. But my deep passion was to really spend time in the Middle East because I love the culture. I truly saw that, let's say, the region is waking up, in particularly in the startups, the entrepreneur spirit, and let's say the VC space, the landscape were changing so fast.
Yeah.
That's how I got connected with a company called Global Foundries, which is wholly owned by Mubadala. And I was making investments in deep tech, semiconductor, the most complicated technology companies around the globe, but never in the Middle East. So that's why Mahmoud and I, my co-founding partner at Shorooq, we wanted to pursue our passion of working with the startups here, especially in the early stage. That's why we launched Shorooq in 2016. Alhamdulillah, it has been the best personal journey. And really, as Mamta, you kindly suggested, I am so blessed to be in the Forbes Middle East 30 under 30 this year. Although that tells my age, so I don't want to say it too loud.
You don't want to know our age. Yeah, exactly. Okay. And Shorooq Investments is one of the top 20 VCs in the region as well.
Yes. By Forbes Middle East, yes.
Oh, okay. Amazing. Great. So what we really want to focus on, because a lot of our audience is aspiring entrepreneurs or very early on in their startup journey, and they're always looking to learn from VCs what they really look for when making an investment and when becoming partners with the startups. So today we'll focus on about 4 startups that you've invested in, and if we can know what the motivation behind it was and what the learnings have been for you, then that would be great.
Got it. So let's start with a company called Sarwa, because it is really a unique story. So Sarwa, just for the audience, it is a leading robo-advisor startup, which is in a fintech space. So they basically help people who do not know how to make investments, they do not know how to make active investments, or people who necessarily do not have millions of dollars to work with the human portfolio managers. Like they can work with Sarwa to make passive investments automatically at a really, really low fees, because it's all AI, it's all algorithms, not a human portfolio manager in behind. So it's completely scalable. It's a very great and popular business model around the world. But Sarwa was the first one to be in the region. They received the first license by TIFC, and they're really crushing it.
Wow. What does Sarwa mean?
So wealth. It means wealth in Arabic.
That's a good name.
Yes.
How has it been performing for the investors?
So it has been amazing. So we first found Sarwa when they really just had 2 founding members. There was not a team. Then there was not even, let's say, they didn't really even receive the license. So we first met with Mark and Jad, who are the 2 of the 3 co-founding members, and they were not even in UAE actually. So I met them through a friend's referral, and they were aspiring entrepreneurs who wanted to be based in the Middle East. And they finally received the innovation testing license, which is a sandbox license out of a DIFC. And we saw the vision, we saw how good they were, amazing at execution, and we led their seed round. So here,
This is like beyond early stage. It's
exactly.
like early
so,
idea
so
stage.
exactly. The reason I wanted to just highlight that is to tie it back to what you asked me. The reason we wanted to invest in Sarwa is we really saw the team, Mark and Jot. They have been best friends for a long time. They were passionate enough to move out of Canada. They're Lebanese, but they're Lebanese Canadians who really spend more time outside of the region. But they also wanted to pursue their passion. These two young gentlemen were moving here, and we saw how good they were executing, especially in regulation. Fintech is all about you have to play with the regulation super well.
Okay.
And that makes or breaks. And that's why it's important to understand and have faith in the founders that they can cope with that regulation. So yes, you're absolutely right. The company, there was really not much.
Yeah.
They were pre-revenue.
Right.
They didn't even have a beta platform. They were just working on the beta platform.
Okay.
So we led their seed round, and in 6 months they were already beta platform was already out. They were having so many customers, so many traffic, and we also led their pre-series A round again. And this
Okay.
time, a lot of investors who were not believing in the idea also joined our rounds. So it was it was amazing. And now the company is growing 40% month over month.
That's
wow.
amazing.
That's some
Yes.
amazing growth. Yeah.
How long ago did you invest in Sarwa?
So the first seed
round.
investment, that was 2017, so September.
Okay.
September to November, I think, was the deal.
Okay.
And then the pre-series A round was 2018. I think we finished in July or so.
Okay.
So basically, in 6 months, the company came from 2-people team to they quickly added Nadine as a co-founder. So it was a 3-people team. To when we let their pre-series A round, they're already 8 people. Already crushing in the market, had a full license.
Okay.
So our confidence was well proven.
Okay.
And really, Sarwa, the primary reason we wanted to invest was really their ability to focus on execution. And it was flawless, really.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a rare story to hear about
From
a company.
VC, yeah.
No, for a company to get invested with no traction.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
And that's how Shorooq, we sometimes do, we're very well known. And I do want to be careful because when I say this, so many startups without any traction sometimes reach out to us with, Shin, you invested in them, you should invest in us.
Right.
And we do get a lot of that. There are companies like Sarwa, Smart Crowd, Pure Harvest. We invested in them much before revenue, before revenue, because we believe in the founders. At the end, it's really about the team. It's all about the execution.
Yeah.
And if we see that we can help, we can create value for them in terms of execution, we're not afraid to invest when it's a pre-revenue.
Yeah, you say it's about execution, but the truth is you're not really seeing any execution. It's the faith you have in the execution.
So it's more like let's say testing points. For example, I can learn a lot when the founders how they work with the regulators.
Okay. And you said that's important in
yes,
fintech, yeah.
exactly. So we understand what is important for that particular startup and the industry. And then if we feel that the founders know how to manage that it already is part of the execution.
Okay. Okay. Great.
So the next company that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So we talked about Sarwa, which we invested super early. Perhaps I can give you another example where we invested actually a bit on the later stage called Sukamal.
Okay.
So Sukamal, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with it.
I just bought my car insurance from Sukamal today.
That's good to know. I also bought mine through Sukamal. So they're a leading insurance aggregator platform.
Yeah.
Today they're really dominant on the car insurance, but you can also have they're also are starting more on the property insurance, health insurance, basically insurance side, which is so massive. They're really the leading aggregator platform on that.
Yeah.
So we actually met Amberine, who is amazing rock star, when we were just coming up with the idea of Shorooq and we were just forming Shorooq.
Okay.
So we invested in Sukamal when I was in the US. When Mahmoud was also serving his army, military duty as an Emirati. But we so it was a lot of also faith and due diligence. But the reason we invested in Sukamal is we knew that the market is so big. This thesis of an online insurance play has always worked around the globe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we knew that someone will be able to do it. So we evaluated a few companies in that space. This space, unfortunately, is brutally competitive. There's a low barriers to entry, so a lot of players are there. But the reason we invested in Sukama after looking at all of these, again, Embreen, she really is very, very good at the execution. But to give you very specific examples, this one we mentioned brutally competitive, so you need to differentiate in customer service, like the call centers and etc.
Yeah.
I saw how Embreen, she trains her call center, which is really the secret sauce
Oh,
for
really?
for Sukama and etc. And they're really, really good at that.
Yeah, what I find very impressive about Sukalmal is their execution for sure.
Yeah.
So, for example, my situation, right? I bought this car insurance today. They knew they had a file. I had bought it from them last year, so they contacted me right about time when I was going to buy another car insurance. Then the same contact who called me last year called me again this year, so they were familiar with who I was.
Yes.
They also send me an email with a quick link where I could click and just pay.
Yes,
And then,
yes.
so
Magic link? A magic link?
yeah, basically a magic link.
Okay.
And, you don't have to enter any
You don't have to
customer
log in,
information
okay.
or
Amazing.
anything. Yeah, you could just click on that. We incorporated a lot of those ideas into Ajarkar as well, actually.
Yeah.
I looked at Sukalmal and I saw what they were doing and I was like, wow, we could implement that into our own platform,
So this is actually a great point. Since I already talked about the team and the execution, one of the key things that we at Shorooq, we really focus on, how does the business model work and how do they actually, what is the revenue model?
Yeah.
So we, frankly, coming from a private equity, we're not a typical VC investors. Mahmoud and I, we really started as a private equity professionals, which means we're more on the fundamental. We're very bottoms up versus the top down.
Okay.
So like a Sukamar, we really cared a lot about those repeat customers, retention rate of the customers.
Lifetime
Right.
value.
Exactly. It's so much easier to sell to your existing customer than to a new customer.
Yeah.
Agreed.
If you're losing customers left and right, you're not really solving a problem, or you're not having a sustainable business model.
Okay.
So Sukama is a platform. Sarwa is a platform. These platforms bring customers left and right. So like Sarwa, for example, that we talked about, once you're onboarded, you rarely take the money out. So
Yeah.
they continue with you for many, many
Reinvesting,
years.
yeah.
Sukama, let's say you bought the car insurance.
Yeah.
You might not like that insurance next year, but you still go to Sukama and buy another car insurance at the Sukama.
Yeah.
So those repeat customer dynamics is very key.
Okay.
So it's big part of our investment thesis is the repeat customer dynamics and the recurring revenue.
Okay.
Like one last punchline there is every entrepreneur, when they pitch their idea, they always say, Shin, our startups is the best. We're so unique. We're so different. But at the end, recurring customers who already paid for your service, if they come back, that's the best validation of your business model.
I think that's a good
That's
idea.
a very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So, what about a third startup? With Sarva, it was very early. With
Yes.
Sukalmal, it was in Series A that you invested.
Yes.
So, if you can give us another example of a startup.
So I will another startup that comes to my mind that is quite unique on the profile is called a Trucker.
Trucker.
So Trucker, what they do is simply put, is Uber for trucks. It's a truck aggregator platform that serves both B2C, so individual customers. They're the largest domestic home moving company.
Okay.
But they also do B2B, so like a cross-border transactions. The
For
beauty,
first mile, last mile.
like actually not last mile per se. The example I give you is if you send your trucks from UAE to Saudi, then they come empty-handed from Saudi to UAE.
Okay.
So these truck drivers, if they can find the load to pick it up from Saudi to UAE, truck drivers make money, and the overall bill to the customer can be lower because truck driver already made some money.
Okay.
So, route optimization.
Yeah, route optimization is a sharing you can call like a sharing concept for trucks. And this is a platform without any inventory, without like any trucks.
They don't own any
They
trucks.
don't own any
okay.
trucks, so we love that.
They're the technology platform.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here a few reasons why we liked. First, again, the consistent theme is that Gaurav is one of the most hustlers,
Yeah,
really
we've met them.
most disciplined entrepreneurs I've seen. He would
Really?
actually stay with the truck drivers left and right if he has to get stuff done. Like, this guy is super, really like a hustler. The entire team is hustlers. We talked about the execution, so that's one.
Yeah.
Second, we also talked about the repeat customer dynamics, recurring revenue. So we also talked about that.
Yeah.
Another big thesis here, we have a thesis when there's a lot of human intervention, when the things are not sometimes transparent. Truck industry has always been very opaque.
Yeah.
There's a lot of negotiation. If I want
Yeah.
to move my stuff, I call 5 truck companies. I negotiate every single time, and then sometimes they don't even show up at the right time.
Yeah.
Most of the times they don't show up at the right time.
Yeah.
With trucker, they provide transparency. I know exactly what I'm getting. Like I believe that their quote is actually the lowest, and I checked it out. But like their quote is very standardized, and this
Okay.
is a huge value for consumers, but also for businesses. Because
Right.
businesses, they don't want to deal with 10 truck drivers every day, hassle pricing. Right?
Yeah.
So trucker really solves a pain point in the industry, and that industry pain point can differ for every single company. But trucker, they solve a big points, and they really crush it on what they do. And this
Okay.
is a big fragmented industry, and trucker is the leader. So that's why we invested in them.
And at what stage did you invest in
So
Trucker?
we invested in the pre-series A round.
Okay.
Yeah, so Sarwa was seed and pre-series A. Sukama was just beyond series A. And the
Okay.
trucker was a pre-series A. And we
Okay.
also followed on the series A.
Okay.
Yeah, so we also have a tendency to invest multiple times to support and help them grow, because all of them are growing.
Okay.
Yes.
And aside from investment,
Yes.
what value, I'm sure there's
Yes.
lots of it, that you provide to the startups that you invest in?
So frankly, we get so heavily involved. As really, it depends on anywhere. As long as the company and the entrepreneur ask us for help, we're heavily involved.
Okay.
So we'll talk about a company called Yaomi. But for Yaomi, we're so involved in terms of recruiting a general manager, recruiting a marketing team, which you know firsthand.
Yeah.
So we're heavily involved with recruiting and strategy, operation, and etc. For Sukama, which is the company is much more mature,
Yeah.
we're more involved with the strategy and the general direction, like a country,
Growth.
country expansion.
Okay.
Trucker, we're also involved with country expansion. We're a board observer, so we're on the board. So we're heavily involved with general direction, strategy, financing, always raising capital. We're
Okay.
heavily involved.
Okay.
For Sarwa, if you type in YouTube, I also did video for them as to all your customers. So that's one of the fun examples of how I was got involved. I'm
Okay.
also a customer of Sarwa, so that's
Okay.
another example.
Okay.
But really, we're very proud and confident that we are probably the most heavily involved investor in the region, and that comes with the cost of a busy. But
Yeah.
that's our
Yeah.
passion. We love to work with them, and whenever entrepreneur asks us for support, we're always there.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Great.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people have this misunderstanding that VCs, once they invest, it's like, oh, there's a check and then you have to deal with it. But I think a lot of VCs actually get personally involved because, I mean, is their money at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, and are involved in strategy, and we've spoken to a couple of VCs
Yes,
as well,
yes.
and I think that the startup ecosystem is definitely growing here,
Yes.
where VCs don't act like angel investors
Yes.
do, and that's a fundamental difference that we are learning as well.
Yeah.
While we're talking to VCs and looking to raise for a jar car and
Yes.
all of that. Great. So before we talk about the fourth startup, what is the best way, like we were talking offline, that you
Yes.
get 10 pitch decks
Yes.
a week,
Yes.
just you alone, not
Yes.
counting the
Yes.
rest of the team. But what is the best way for a startup to approach a
Yes.
VC?
This is a great question, and I always actually want to highlight this. First of all, cold emails, cold LinkedIn messages, cold sometimes even WhatsApp messages never work. Like all of us are busy people, and with due respect, if we get random messages and emails, it's so easy to read it, but go to archive, or we do respond it, and we responded, but still the attention span and the focus is very, very different. And I'm not saying that it's impossible to get to a VC, because the best way and really the most recommended way is you need to get through a referral. Like it means a lot when I refer to my other VC friends, when other VC friends refer to us, right? Like especially, and the truth is, VC industry, people in the startup world, we're all very, let's say, sociable. Like we are active in conferences.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're always hiding in our offices. So and we also know that, frankly, as an entrepreneur, you gotta be on the sales job.
Yes.
So like if you cannot find a way to get into the VC investors network or at all, I think that also is we're partly doing a DD that because how can you sell your company in front of other investors and other customers that you need to do to grow if you cannot get into that homework, right? So like definitely no cold emails, really getting into other VCs and other angel investors to refer you is really the best way.
Okay, great, awesome.
So but okay, I know that is the best way, because that's the way it's worked for me as well. But what about people who have no connections? Like, like say I'm new in Dubai, I don't know anybody.
That's a problem.
So it's a problem, but I'll tell you. Okay, let's talk about tangible ways, perhaps. So this region is blessed with conferences. We have so many conferences. Frankly, it's too much. But there are a few key conferences that a lot of investors go, and you honestly need to start there. Face-to-face quote meeting is better than a cold email. So meet them, explain to them. Yes, they're not gonna spend too much time. You probably have 30 seconds to a minute, but at least get to meet them and then send an email. And some of them, if you met them once, they might not remember, but next time if you see them again, they will start to remember. Right.
Get as much FaceTime as possible.
Exactly.
With the VC.
And you have to be aggressive, because remember, at the end, like we do get a lot of pitch decks. We do get a lot of companies, and you have to be aggressive. Like you don't want to be disrespectful, but you have to be aggressive.
Okay. So another question about new founders looking for raising. What advice would you have for, say, the pitch deck? And like, what was the pitch deck like, for example, in some of the companies that you invested in?
I'm curious about specifically about Sarwa's pitch deck.
Yes. So I know Sarwa's pitch decks are really, 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 really good. And
They have to be,
because Mark, the CEO, he is ex-consultant. And they just do an amazing job with the design. Like so I guess it does matter if the pitch decks look good and it's very clear, right? And like his decks are very, very top notch.
Okay.
So in terms of what we're looking for the pitch deck, and every investor is different, and every company is different. But really, I don't want to repeat the simple things like problem. Solution, team, traction, your business model, and etc. So I want to come back to traction. If you have a traction to show, you should really highlight that. There is trust me, a lot of startups next to you do not have a traction. So if you have a traction to show, highlight that. Then that really already is very different from a lot of startups out there. So that's one. Second, a lot of questions that people ask me, should I talk about how much am I raising? What are my thoughts on the terms? Investors will have a different views. My view, I think, is good to put that in, because even if you don't put it in, a lot of entrepreneurs, I always ask, because we're very founder focused, we're very founders partners. I always ask them, what are your ideal situation? What are your ideal terms like? A lot of founders, they tell me they don't have a view. Like they want investors to give them a term sheet. They want investors to do that, which is okay. We're gonna do that anyway, but I want them to be self-aware. They should have a view on their company. right?
Yeah.
And if they say I'm $100 million when in my view they're valued at $5 million, well, obviously there is a misconnect.
Yeah.
And that misconnect, I want to see that. And second, I don't want founders to be taken advantage of. At the end, this is a long-term game. It's not like you were selling a company. You're going to be in this partnership and friendship for a long time. I don't want founders to feel like they were mistreated.
Okay.
And if your view was 50 million inside, but I didn't know that, and we ended out somehow agreed on 5 million because you were desperate for cash,
Right.
hey, I don't think you will feel good. And I also am not happy with it because I want you to believe in this friendship.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So always a transparent communication, in my view, is super key. And I think founders should actually be aware of their value.
Okay. So in the pitch deck, founders should show valuation.
Yes.
Should they also show resource utilization?
Yes. So sources and uses. So basically, we will always ask that. So like I think it's always good to show in a very simple pie chart or any form you want to put how you're gonna use that. And the most, I actually, it is rare for me to see a pitch deck without that. So that's why I didn't want to focus on it. Another thing that I did want to highlight, because I want to talk about the things that I think founders sometimes misunderstand. Sometimes they come with a report by a third party, like accounting firm or some saying
like
that I'm
audited.
valued at $15 million. I'm valued at $20 million by these reports. It's a waste of your money and time, and investors are not going to take any of that into consideration.
Right.
Because you do your own
Yes,
DD
yes.
to figure out.
And we know that they just amplify your valuation like crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. So like please, I really strongly urge the founders and entrepreneurs, don't waste your precious time and money on that.
Yeah. Invest in marketing instead. With yellow.
Exactly. So those are important. Something else, of course, we want to really understand all the market competitor. I think founders here do that very well. So I don't even need to emphasize. Something that I want to emphasize though, I think sometimes business model is not clear. Like revenue model. How do you actually make revenue? How do you actually plan to make revenue if
Really?
you're not making revenue?
Okay.
Because founders sometimes they're so immersed into their own model, like they think it's clear enough, but actually for me a lot of times it's not clear.
Oh,
Right.
okay. That's interesting.
So, and in terms of traction, what is generally, what would you consider like a bare minimum as a metric for, like, say, different business models? What would you consider a bare metric to like start looking at them or considering them?
So normally I'm always very transparent to give an answer, but this one, the truth is there is no answer, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be very specific. If an e-commerce company comes to me, I don't think $10,000 is enough, and I'll tell you why. E-commerce companies, there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them, and I know that fundamentally, in my view, it's really, really hard to differentiate. So you are competing with each other without much differentiation. What that means is you need to spend a lot of time on marketing, which is expensive, which is costly, and even then, the customers are not loyal to you. So then for me, if I were to invest in an e-commerce company, and we have some like Joy Gives and etc., they need to show us attraction. They need to show that really they are different, which should be shown on data and the figures behind it. However, for a company like Sarwa, which I knew was already very different, there was no other company, there's no other even similar business who receive any license. We invested in zero revenue. They were way before revenue. We invested in them in October in 2017. They only started to generate any revenue, very small revenue, in 2018 in April or end of March.
Okay.
So it's very company specific. If you are talking to a good investor, this is the type of answer you should expect, because no company is the same, no founders are the same. So we really do carefully look at each company, unique case by case, and we don't want to have a general rule of thumb.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay.
Does I guess competition must be playing a big factor into the traction as well, as you said,
Yes.
right? E-commerce companies,
Yes.
lots of competition,
Yes.
hard to get mind share. But if you're more niche,
Yes.
then you probably you discount those numbers, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
like a Suka Mall. Of course, they were already quite big, and we know that I told you this space is massive, but also is a very harsh competition.
Right.
But one of the reasons we were comfortable with it is in that harsh competition, they were the leader, and they proved that they could compete.
Okay.
Right.
And the metric, I guess, that was important there was lifetime value.
So lifetime
Returning
value,
customers.
GMV, what's their revenue
What's
take,
GMV?
the gross market value,
Okay.
how much of the customers this year are coming back next year, and all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So we have a fourth startup as well that
Yes.
we'd like to discuss.
So fourth startup is actually one of our latest investments. They were very dear to our heart. Is Yaomi, which means daily in Arabic. And what we are really doing is a tech-enabled or business services slash F&B brand is a Levantine cuisine, and we're also part of this central kitchen platform that is getting really, really popular these days around the world, but also here in the Middle East. And we're partnered with the leading central kitchen platform called Kitopi that you guys might have heard of. And the beauty of this is the biggest problem normally of an F&B is you need a lot of capex.
Capital,
Yes.
yeah.
It's very capital intensive.
Right.
And if you are doing well in Business Bay, if you want to get into Marina, that's another 2 to 3 million dirhams.
Yeah.
Right.
But now you can technically open a restaurant with substantially smaller amount. We're talking about less than 100,000 dirhams.
Okay.
Wow.
So now with that, if you have a killer idea, you can open a restaurant, you can scale much faster. So it's very much of a technology company. It's very similar to a profile of a business services technology company.
Okay.
So normally at Shorooq, I told you we're a tech VC. And getting into F&B, although it's a very unique platform, F&B was not an easy decision. But we really believe in Joy, the founder and the CEO. We believe in this sharing concept for kitchens. We saw the growth, and we were one of the backers of this idea.
So have you invested in Kitopi as well?
No, so we did not invest in Kitopi, but the CEO and we're all part of the same group of friends.
Okay.
So I truly believe them. We also help them a lot from other angles.
So if Joy, who's the founder of Yomi, wanted to do Yomi the traditional way,
Yes.
which is brick and mortar,
Yes.
serving certain areas, would Shorooq still be involved?
No.
Okay. It needs to have
Yes.
a tech aspect
Yes.
to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we one of the things we're very good at is that we know how to integrate with tech and squeeze more efficiency and help them channel those resources to grow.
Okay.
Okay.
So Yami, a brick and mortar, typical restaurant, we as a VC we wouldn't invest in that.
Okay. Fine.
But because Yaomi truly showed us that they grew 14 times in a year, and they showed us how they resemble the profile of our tech-enabled business services that we're very, very good at, that we know how to scale. This is how we made investment.
Wow, 14
Okay.
times in a year.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
very good.
Yeah.
That's
And
very
this is all under really one person team, Joey.
good. Yeah.
Yes. And now
And
we
I've
have a
tried the
team.
food and
Yes.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so
Try
good.
Yaomi,
Gotta try
you
it
can
out.
find in Talabat, Zomato, any of these platforms.
Yeah.
And now we have a full team. We're always growing, and alhamdulillah, really, it is very exciting.
That's cool.
So how did Joy approach you to
So-
invest in Yomi, and at what stage?
So Joy, the good thing here is that we have known Joy as a friend before. So we have
Okay.
been supporters of her when she was working on Yaomi.
Okay.
When she initially launched Yaomi, and we saw how we, as a friend, we were witnessing how fast she was growing. But I think it all came down to this formal partnership when the Joy she realized Yaomi was growing so fast, and that she really needed someone to help her grow, help her, let's say, just build a team. Right, as she actually has an amazing marketing background. She's the mother of 2 beautiful sons, and it's sometimes difficult to manage personal but also work when the company is doing so well.
Yeah.
So she was looking for
It's a nice problem to
Yes.
have.
and she was looking for a good investor to really be a partner, not just an investor, because she really needs. She was really looking for operational support.
Okay.
Right. So that's how she knew us as a friend, but also she knew that that's our style as an investor. and we had a mutual interest. We love working with each other, and that's how we
Okay.
invested.
Okay, great, awesome. So I think 4 very different startups, but at the end of the day, if we had to boil down to one thing that you specifically look for, is the founders.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So with Ijar Cart, I'm the unofficial co-founder. The unofficial,
Which
but
is blessing
the
to
official
have,
CMO.
especially someone who is amazing at marketing. We talked about
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we'd be able to do it without
Yeah.
having the in-house, because startups are expensive.
Yeah,
Totally,
yeah, and of
totally.
course we want to do things very lean. But I'm curious, is it a negative if it's a sole one-person team? I mean, I know you've
Yes,
invested
yes.
in Joy,
Yeah.
but we have heard from some VCs that they prefer it if it's a team.
Yes. So Sukama is also
Sole
sole
founder.
founder.
Yeah.
Yaomi is also sole founder.
Mm-hmm.
We do have companies who are sole founders, but I think what you just said is generally true.
Okay.
So it is. I wouldn't say negative because that's a harsh word.
Okay.
We prefer companies with multiple co-founders, and especially we at Shorooq, we actually somehow data proves that we prefer if the one of the co-founders is a lady.
Oh, really?
Right. We're very a lot of our co-founders are lady, and I have a few rationals to, let's say, try to justify that. Let me see.
Okay.
So at the end, all of us are entrepreneurs. Being a founder is not an easy task.
Yeah.
It really is really a challenging task, and if you're doing it alone, it becomes frustrating sometimes, and you don't know if the direction you're going is the right direction.
Right.
Even as if you have partners, you might still don't know, but at least you can discuss. You can
have a
share your
sounding
joy.
board.
You can share your sadness.
Yeah.
So that mental state, I think, is already a very good start if you have a partner.
Okay.
And second, as you said, it is expensive. Any employee is at a cost.
Yeah.
If you have a good partners who can really complement either marketing and tech, or business or tech, or finance with tech,
Yeah.
something along those combinations,
Yeah.
it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have the skill set.
Yes.
You have you get high experienced people to come in at no cost
And network, and also network.
Yeah.
You only have so much time in the day.
Yeah.
If you can cover 2 different conferences, if you meet 2 different type of people,
Yeah.
it's so much better. So I definitely recommend having a co-founder.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it as
Yes.
well. With Yellow, we are actually 4
Yes,
partners, with all 4 very different skill sets
Yes.
and very different strengths.
Yes.
So I definitely see the value in it. But Ijarkar started with 2 partners,
Yes.
Sid and
Yeah.
one more. And now he's the sole founder. So it is something that's come up in conversation. So I wanted to see how much impact it has from when a VC is meeting one
Yes,
founder.
yes. So it's definitely not no. I don't think
Yeah.
any VC should say no just because it's a sole founder. I think it's just the bar is higher,
Okay.
Yeah.
right? The bar is just
It's
higher.
harder, yeah.
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 But
Okay.
but there are pros because my new friend Sid says he's a sole founder. The pro is you can make decisions hopefully faster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So
Definitely.
that is one thing that I noticed. Definitely having co-founder shares your workload and your
Yes.
responsibility, but also decision making is much faster when
Yes.
you're a sole
Yeah.
founder, for
Yeah.
sure. Like you can definitely change the direction of the company quicker.
Yeah.
So if those decisions turn out to be right,
Yeah.
it will be okay.
Yeah. Well, he still has me as a sounding
Yeah,
board, so I
exactly.
don't think he misses.
She's my unofficial
Exactly.
co-founder.
Yeah.
So
So
Yeah.
one tangible advice, perhaps have a group of advisors. So at the end, what investors want to see is if the founder alone has too much power, a lot of things can go wrong. So at the end, we want to make sure you're humble. You also are flexible to
You want to
listen
listen
to
to
other views.
feedback,
Exactly.
yeah.
Because no one is perfect. Like we're not perfect. If you have a group of advisors, you can be a sole founder, but here's my awesome list of board. I mean the advisors that
Yeah.
I always talk That is a very good.
Yeah. So this whole podcast, the
Yes.
idea behind it was kind of to create that. To create that, because
Without giving equity.
Yes.
see, the thing is that when people are when you call them for a podcast, then they're like, okay, yeah, we can sit for an hour and talk, but like if you just call them up, like they're busy, this helps me dedicate some time and get a person to like talk to for a bit, and that's what's benefited the most. Actually, I've got so many ideas. Post podcast, we talk about, there's some things we can't share on the podcast. Obviously, they're private or confidential. So then a lot of times after the conversation, I get so many ideas and so much good advice.
Yeah, I mean, you've invested in Joy Gifts. We had Ritesh on the podcast, and we know him from before as well.
Yeah.
But it's also post podcast right after. I think we were talking for like 2 hours after. But 3 weeks later, there was an opportunity for a brand collaboration with Joy Gifts for one of my other clients, and I gave him a call, and Sid was checking about some conversations that he just wanted to kind of sense check with Ritesh. And I know Ritesh is a very busy man, but he did make himself a little bit more available to us because we sat and talked for basically 4 hours, So
yeah, it's always good to get advice from smart people.
So I think that all of the feedback that you've shared has really been helpful. If you had one piece of advice that you would like to give to entrepreneurs looking to raise early stage, what would that be?
So I do think, although every founder knows raising capital is difficult, they still underestimate how difficult it is. Because I think I also still believe I'm all of us, I think we should believe we're special. And I think especially when we do a startup, we think our startups are quite special. So we sometimes forecast only 3 months, let's say 2 months, 3 months of balance sheet. So let's say if I'm running out of cash, if I forecast, okay, I need to raise capital at X date, we should really have at least many months of a runway. Because raising capital is not easy. So, and remember, if you start to be in a desperate cash situation, it's not good for you, but also investors will take that very, very negatively. Because no investor wants to put in a melting pot or a sinking ship. So I don't want to put my money into a startup and the startup only gets by another 3 months. Then I have to worry about the company going bankrupt. So that's really the worst situation. So to plan out, like if you have a 9 months of a runway, start now. If you have a 3 months of runway, you should already be saying inshallah very, very, very often. Like really, like you have to be out every single day fundraising. Fundraising here in the region takes time. Also for the weather and the summer, like it's terrible.
Everyone disappears.
Really think smart about it. Reach out to as many people as possible aggressively. Also being polite, but also plan out the time.
And I guess if you have just a few months left in your runway, investors can sense that desperation, and maybe founders can get taken advantage of or not get the best deal, or you'll take the first deal that you get. Start fundraising early. The lead time in the region is also longer.
So on average, I hate to say this, but on average it's rumored to be around 9 months for any financing. In the US, 3 months is already long.
Really?
Because startups can die in 9 months. Like 9 months is a long time. And I mean, it's average. So I guess a lot of startups who really struggle to raise, they might take years. That's why I think the average is long. But it takes time. If you did any financing in 3 months, that's already very, very good.
I don't think any of the founders I've met did in 3 months. Unless you have like a good connection or you're already from the VC world or something.
So we call that like it's not about your startup is so good. I think sometimes if you're lucky.
Or you're a second time founder. So you already have a proven exit, and then you're starting your second startup, and then you want to, I think those people might be able to do it in 3 months. But
and that's why having a good early stage institutional investors or even good super angel investors are really key.
Right.
Because they will take you around to their friends. They will
Yeah.
recommend you to other VCs. And those referrals really mean a lot.
Yes, it's also like a validation of your product, right?
Exactly.
Somebody is willing to give you money.
Yes.
So.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Outside of your friends and families.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like,
because your grandmother will always love your idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why it's tough. Early stage is tough. Sometimes I wish it's easier, but also if I can leave a last note, I think it's entrepreneurs should also understand why investors are saying no, why investors are saying yes. This is why we're having this podcast. Investors are also taking a lot of risk by
Right.
putting into a startup that is just started to either generate revenue just now or not even generating revenue. And at the end, you're asking them for their precious money or their LP's precious money. This money can mean someone's entire 60 years of a pension,
Yeah.
right? So it is a lot of responsibility. Like I never take anything personally. If the
Yeah.
investors are disrespectful, that's not a good investor to work with. But if the investor gives you good rational decision, it's nothing about personal. It's just they had their own rationals.
And listen to that feedback and implement it. I mean,
Yeah.
it is really like getting advice so that the next time you're looking to fundraise, you'd be a little bit better prepared.
And sometimes the entrepreneurs complain that a lot of investors don't give any feedback.
Okay.
Or they give feedback that entrepreneurs don't think is the true. Like they were just saying, this is some BS just for the sake of it. If I were to offer an investor's perspective, Shorooq, we actually take giving prompt feedback in a very disciplined way. This is something this is also actually how we became popular.
Okay.
Because when we pass, we normally pass very right away. We
Okay.
don't waste time, especially for the founder. We don't
Lead them
Yeah, we
on.
don't lead them on, sit around idle. Like it's just not our style.
Okay.
And we do that because we truly believe in the partnership with the founders as their partner. If the investors are not giving you good reasons, either they're just super busy, and I can tell you sometimes we are busy.
Yeah.
Like everyone is busy.
Sure.
We
Yeah.
are busy. And second, some investors I guess we're not obliged to give you a reason. Try to get the feedback. If they are not giving it to you, I'm sure I'm sure like they have their own other reasons.
So you said it's either that they're really, really busy or that you're not really obliged to give feedback.
Yes.
But as much as possible, do you give feedback?
Yes.
Okay.
We try to be really clear on the feedback. For example, I might tell you, in my view, customer retention rate should be higher.
Okay.
Right.
Or I might tell you that really just simply traction is not there.
Okay.
Or I might tell you that I don't think the industry is going in that direction. Like
Okay.
or simply put, barrier to entry is so low where we see literally computers popping up left and right.
Okay.
Okay.
But we definitely do give all those feedback.
Okay. Okay. Great. Awesome.
All right, guys. On that note, thank you so much for being on
Thank
the
you.
podcast, providing this valuable advice. We leave links to Shorooq Investments in the
Thank you.
description and to
And-
Shane.
And also to the 4 startups
They'll be
that
great.
Shane mentioned.
Yeah.
We're all about promoting startups and
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, especially this group of hustler entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What we are
and-
most proud of is our entrepreneurs who are also our friends and families. Every single one of them amazing rock stars.
That's awesome.
So
Cool.
hopefully we'll have some of these rock star founders come on the podcast very soon.
Yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Alright.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Really, I never saw the camera once. I will see camera at least once. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we are available on YouTube. So if you guys want to watch the video version of this podcast, it's available on YouTube. We are also on all the podcast platforms. So if you want to hear us on iTunes or Google Podcasts or pretty much any podcast platform, we're available there. We also host this podcast on Anchor. So the cool thing about Anchor is you can actually leave us a voice note. So if you want to ask us any questions, you can leave us your voice note, and we'll try to answer it in one of the future episodes of this podcast.
Yeah.
Leave us a good rating if you're listening to us on a podcast platform. It really
give us
helps
the
us
best
out.
rating. Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, and hit like
a
and subscribe.
good
Especially
review.
for this episode. So
Yeah. Yeah.
to
We
crush
want
it.
this episode to get tons and tons of
Exactly.
views.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you have a question for Shane as well, you can get in touch with him on
Yes.
LinkedIn. We will leave his LinkedIn.
Yes.
He may hate us for this,
Yes.
but we will
LinkedIn
leave-
message, although I thought it's not a best idea, but it's okay. It's okay.
Not if you're looking to raise,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
yeah.
Any questions? Email me. LinkedIn. Like we're very friendly.
Perfect.
So-
Awesome.
Awesome.
And you can also leave a voice note with a question for Shane, and maybe we'll have him on another episode, potentially with one of the Rockstar founders as well. So signing off.
All right,
Thank
guys,
you.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Keep on hustling.
Bye bye.